John and I are discussing why David Justice is back in the headlines after 30 years. And as per usual, we did not see eye to eye on this one. John says it's his story to tell. I say, sir, answer the question and move on. We touch on media machines, narratives, and whether it's fair and appropriate to bring up an ex decades later. Got feedback? Drop it in the comments.
So let's dive right in. So there were a couple of comments I know that caught your attention with some of the things that was said in our community section on YouTube. What were some of the things that stood out to you that you took issue with this week?
I didn't take issue with anything. I thought there were some interesting comments. I think we're going to touch on a couple of them. Last week, we talked about Howard and HBCUs, and there were a lot of different comments in there. People talking about their experience, talking about what HBCUs mean to them or meant to them. I think we're going to touch on it as we continue through this episode, but they were very interesting, and a lot of people, and by a lot, a couple of people had echoed my sentiment that I think that it would have been very interesting to attend an HBCU. And one of the things I really took away from the comments I really enjoyed was that sense of community. And, you know, for me, my community is my family. I don't tend to look outside of my family to establish community, but someone had said that you have developed lifelong friendships. And there's something to be said about that, because again, when I leave anything, jobs, school, I don't know those people anymore, and I move on.
And that's a good segue into the story that captivated social media this week. And that was individuals saying that my all-time favorite Atlanta Brave, or one of my all-time favorite Atlanta Braves, David Justice, was incapable or unable to move on. So I want to frame the conversation this way. And I think I contacted you right after I listened to the podcast over a week ago, because I tend to, as you do, we tend to walk. And as I'm walking, I ideate and listen to different podcasts that interest me. And one of them, All the Smoke, hosted by Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, is one of my favorite podcasts. Is typically centered around sports and athletes and things that are going on with respect to either their lives or issues of interest. And back in mid-July here in Atlanta, we had the baseball All-Star game. And that All-Star game had as a part of it, and this is tying the HBCUs back in it, a section of the baseball game that had HBCU stars who weren't or would not be able to get, or college athletes who attend HBCUs who maybe not on the radar of big league scouts. And as a part of that, I thought it was a great event. And as a part of that, and this was right before the baseball All-Star game occurred here in Atlanta, they selected David Justice and Gary Sheffield, who are former Atlanta Braves players, to be the managers of the respective two teams. And as a part of that, during the course of the entire week, both Sheffield and David Justice were giving media availability to various podcasts and various members of the media throughout the week. And so that's how DJ ended up on All the Smoke. The All the Smoke interview was essentially an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes. As a part of the interview, Matt Barnes asked DJ how it was to live in Atlanta in the early 90s. Culture is starting to pick up. And obviously, you are the hottest thing in baseball. You're on the cover of every magazine. And then obviously you had a young lady that was a part of your life who was just starting to make her way, and what that was like with respect to the media. That was the question. And obviously he was talking about David Justice, and at that time being involved or married to Halle Berry. And DJ gave a very cogent, direct answer to the question. It was understanding that during that time in the media, it wasn't social media that we have now. He didn't have issues with the media. He was like, at that time, understanding that I'm from Cincinnati, she's from Cleveland. We essentially started hanging out, liked each other. We're starting to get to know each other. 5 months in, she asked me to marry her. I didn't tell her no. I probably should have told her no, but I was immature. And if we had known about therapy, it probably could have worked. But at that time, my framework for what a wife was, because I was a only child raised by a single mother, I had a limited viewpoint in terms of what relationships were. I'd only had one real relationship prior to getting involved with Halle. And he said, at that time, I viewed a wife as someone who cooked, cleaned, and was motherly. She was none of those things. And the relationship ended, and understanding that I purchased a house that we lived in Atlanta. I purchased a house that we owned in LA. I was footing all the bills. And so she told me when we got together that I don't want your money. So he was like, okay, well, after a while, he's looking at the relationship and going, this is not really working for me. And he asked for a divorce. And so he said he thought it was going to be a very clean divorce because she said she didn't want his money and he had the money. She didn't. She wasn't Halle Berry at that time. She was Halle Berry, which she wasn't her name. And so he said that him being naive, he did not understand the machine being media. And how Halle's team essentially started spreading all these rumors about him being unfaithful and yada, 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 yada. And he was like, his mom told him then, David, I don't want you talking bad about this girl because you know the media wants to see two young, attractive Black folk tearing each other down. You don't say anything bad about her. You take the high road. And he said for 30 years, he didn't say anything. And he said, I wouldn't even be speaking on it now if you didn't ask. He said, the only thing that bothered me about the entire incident was Halle in a previous relationship had gotten involved with a guy who had struck her on her head and caused some hearing loss. She let folk believe that it was him who had struck her and caused that hearing loss. And she did not at any particular point refute that and say it wasn't him. He said that's the only thing that bothered him. What say you about all this craziness that's going on? Because I got some additional comments to add, but I want to get your feedback.
Well, first off, thank you so much for tying in the media and her machine, because I literally got lost with the initial question from Matt Barnes, because I understood it. How was the media? And then all of a sudden it became about his marriage. Like, dude, it's been 30 years. Let it go. Obviously, he's had some things over the last 30 years with a wife and 3 children that he needed to get off his chest. 4 children?
4 children.
Seriously, stop. What is the purpose of bringing this up now?
Matt
How was the media? The media was whatever it was at that particular time. We didn't have a lot to do with it, blah, blah, blah. Next question. How did it come about her cooking, cleaning? Nobody gives a shit about that. Why are you talking about it?
Yeah, I take your point. I disagree. I think that the question was very specific. It was, how were you able to navigate the media at that time with the...
This is my answer. We were both naive. We didn't know anything about the media, so we didn't really have a lot to do with the media. How long was that, John? Right, 15 seconds?
Of course he could have handled it that way, but he did not choose to handle it that way.
Petty. I love petty, but it's been 30 years.
Okay, so here's the problem that I have here. It's not just her story to tell. It's also his story.
He had 30 years to tell it. So help me to understand. He's had the access to the media. He's had access to write a book. He's had access to a blog. He's had access to a podcast. There are a lot of different media outlets. Why 30 years now, when she doesn't even remember your name, do you need to make yourself relevant?
Hold on.
I don't know you.
Because this is what has been driving social media all week, the response that you just made. And this is what a lot of Black men have an issue with, because the response from Black women has been, why are you bringing this up now? You're not relevant. And there's like, this is freaking David Justice we're talking about. He's relevant. He may not be relevant to what you are thinking about and doing in your day-to-day, but he's still a beloved figure who's doing things that Black men who follow sports.
So you know what you can do, since that's your wheelhouse? Let's talk about sports, not about my lack of cleaning 30 years ago.
Hold on.
Yourself relevant.
Okay, so Black people had a problem a couple years ago when white folk told LeBron James just shut up and dribble. Now that's what you're telling David Justice.
No.
You just said all he needs to do is talk about sports and he can't talk about his life?
Okay, so the fact that you're trying to put those two together is mind-boggling to me.
How so?
Because you're talking about someone else's life. You're bringing someone else's business in 30 years later.
But it's his as well.
Okay, so then again, it's not relevant. You talk about sports. Not relevant. David, you were fine back in the day. I mean, I haven't even seen a picture of you yet. Are you still fine? Like, what's your problem? Because he was fine back in the day. I ain't gonna lie.
Hold on. But the issue that I'm having here, and maybe it's because, and I own this. I'm going to make this about John for a second. I'm going to be Lynn. I'm going to make this about me for a second. Football is my first love and passion as a sport. Atlanta Braves is the first team that I fell in love with. Justice is one of my all-time favorite baseball players. Living in this city, knowing people who knew DJ or have known DJ for 30 plus years. There's not been one bad thing said about him.
Other than the fact that he allegedly caused this woman's hearing loss. I don't believe that. And for the record, I don't. John, let me just say this. Great. He's done all these accomplishments. He's done all these things. He's still doing a lot of great things, according to you. Mm-hmm. My thing is that what's the purpose? Like, what do you want to gain by bringing something up from 30 years ago? I can see if you're talking about like the initiatives that you're doing now, there's a reason for that. There's going to be a call to action. There's something that could happen. I don't understand what relevance, what the output would be to bring up something 30 years ago. Like, I just don't.
It was about Matt asking the question about.
And Matt didn't ask the question, did your ex-wife cook and clean? He said, how was the media? Answer the question. Asked and answered and move the fuck on.
He said, at that time, what I thought a wife was. And he owned.
Nobody asked you what you thought a wife was. We said, well, how was the media?
Okay, so some of the comments that I read on social media was, David is a caveman. David is talking about the fact that he is outing himself as an individual who wants a trad wife. And I'm like, okay. So all this man said was, at that time, he thought that a wife should be this, and this.
Sure.
And then it was like, well, why is he dogging out Hallie, who is living her best life in a relationship with Van Hunt? He is not dogging out her. He is saying what their relationship was.
I asked you what the relationship was. Stick to the question and stop getting into other lanes, sir. Now people are talking about David Justice. Seriously, I haven't talked about him in 30 years. Like, I don't care about you, David Justice. You're still fine. I just looked you up. I don't care about you.
Thank you again for spending time talking to us this week. We know that you could be spending your time doing a lot of things. As always, take some time this week to do something nice for yourself. And while you're at it, make some time to do something nice for someone else. Until we talk to you, we'll speak to you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another lively conversation on I Take Your Point. This podcast is a production of the SME LLC Media Group. All rights reserved. If you are enjoying the show, hit the subscribe button in the top right corner. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and check out past episodes. Until next time, take care and be well.